Ignite Culture, Empowering and Leading a Healthy, High-Performance Organization from the Inside Out by Margaret Graziano is a compelling deep dive into how organizations can create thriving cultures through conscious leadership, emotional intelligence, and personal accountability. Rather than offering surface-level strategies or quick fixes, the book focuses on the internal transformations required of both individuals and institutions to genuinely ignite cultural change. Graziano, drawing on her work as a leadership consultant and culture transformation expert, invites readers to go beyond perks and policies and instead consider the emotional infrastructure of a workplace. At the heart of the book is the idea that culture is not something to be implemented from the top down. Culture emerges from every interaction, decision, and behavior within a company. Leaders, Graziano insists, must shift from controlling to inspiring. This shift begins with self-awareness. Understanding one's own triggers, values, and communication habits, and extends to developing deep empathy for the experience of others. The leader's internal state profoundly affects the emotional climate of the organization. Graziano explains that most organizational dysfunctions, high turnover, low morale, poor communication, are symptoms of unacknowledged emotional patterns and unresolved psychological dynamics. For real change to happen, she argues, leaders need to create environments of psychological safety. This doesn't mean indulging complacency or avoiding conflict, but instead creating space for vulnerability, honesty, and real feedback. Safety and trust unlock innovation, resilience, and genuine commitment. Rather than adhering to a rigid model, Graziano champions what she calls cultural architecture, a fluid, evolving framework where people are not cogs in a machine but complex, emotional beings whose talents flourish under the right conditions. She stresses the importance of aligning personal purpose with organizational mission. When people find meaning in their work and feel recognized for their contributions, performance becomes intrinsically motivated rather than fear-driven. The book weaves in stories of organizations that transformed themselves from toxic, stagnant workplaces into thriving, high-performance cultures. These stories serve as evidence that transformation is not only possible, but replicable, if leadership is willing to go first. Graziano demonstrates that it's not enough to change processes or increase compensation, the emotional and energetic tone set by leadership is what truly ignites culture. One key concept explored is human-centered leadership, which asks leaders to abandon outdated command and control models and instead step into roles as facilitators of growth. Leaders are encouraged to ask better questions, listen more deeply, and see feedback as a gift rather than a threat. Emotional intelligence is presented not as a soft skill, but as a business imperative, essential for resolving conflict, building collaboration, and navigating complexity. In a chapter that resonates strongly with change-resistant cultures, Graziano breaks down the difference between compliance and commitment. While compliance may produce short-term results, it ultimately stifles creativity and ownership. Commitment, on the other hand, is born from clarity, trust, and shared values. Leaders who invest in co-creating agreements and clarifying expectations generate real engagement, not just box-checking behavior. An especially powerful part of the book deals with the nervous system and its impact on workplace dynamics. Graziano draws on neuroscience and somatic psychology to explain how stress responses, fight, flight, freeze, show up in boardrooms and email threads. She encourages leaders to develop body awareness and regulate their nervous systems so they can lead from a place of grounded presence rather than reactivity. Another key insight is the notion of clearing the space. The act of addressing unspoken resentments, unfinished conversations, and emotional undercurrents that weigh down teams. Graziano outlines practices for surfacing these issues with grace and courage. These conversations, while uncomfortable, often release a huge amount of creative energy and restore integrity to relationships. The book also explores hiring and talent alignment. Graziano challenges organizations to move beyond resumes and technical fit, and instead assess for emotional maturity, alignment with values, and capacity for collaboration. She emphasizes that high performance is not just about skill, but about the ability to grow within a shared culture. When the right people are in the right seats, purpose and productivity become mutually reinforcing. Graziano doesn't ignore performance metrics and outcomes, rather, she reframes them. She urges organizations to redefine success in terms of human flourishing as well as financial results. This dual lens, she argues, creates a culture where performance is sustainable, because it is rooted in care, meaning, and connection, not fear, burnout, or status games. Midway through the book, she dives into the role of conflict as a source of energy. Conflict is inevitable, but when approached consciously, it can be generative rather than destructive. Graziano gives tools for navigating difficult conversations, naming hard truths, and transforming breakdowns into breakthroughs. These moments, she suggests, are often the crucible where real leadership is forged. Toward the end, Graziano circles back to the leader's own journey. She invites readers to look in the mirror, to examine their own belief systems, inherited patterns, and egoic needs. Leadership, she asserts, is not a title but a practice. It requires humility, emotional labor, and a willingness to evolve. Culture begins with the leader's inner world. Only by transforming themselves can they transform their teams. The book closes with an empowering vision of what's possible when leaders and organizations commit to igniting culture from the inside out. Teams become more courageous, creative, and aligned. Silos dissolve, innovation accelerates, and performance becomes a natural byproduct of health. Graziano's message is clear: culture isn't a luxury or an afterthought. It's the foundation of everything. Ultimately, Ignite Culture is a call to action for those who sense that something deeper is needed in how we lead, work, and relate. It speaks to the emerging future of organizations, ones that are not only high-performing but deeply human. Through vulnerability, alignment, and conscious intention, leaders can indeed build organizations where people thrive, and results follow naturally.